Hello, greetings to one and all. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. It is that time of the week. It's time for Live Irish Myths. This is episode number 290. I'm your host, Anthony Murphy. You're all very welcome to On Lowerlin Show. This evening, slightly different topic, but of course not unrelated at all to Irish mythology. But more focused on the area of publishing and writing. So I am going to give some advice if that has any value. And I'm also going to seek some advice. Consider it a sort of a symbiotic thing, I scratch your back, you scratch mine kind of idea. Anyway, I hope no matter where you are in the world that you're comfortable, that you're safe and well fed, well clothed, and have a roof over your head. Because a lot of people these days don't have all those things. Please do feel free to join in the conversation, whether you're watching on YouTube or on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, please, and ring the notification bell so that when we're live or when there's a new video uploaded, you will be notified. Anyway, I'm going to say hello to all our joiners, all our viewers, the people who are commenting before we proceed, which is something we've always been doing. Elaine Dentling and Felter is the first to comment tonight. If one could melt in the heat, I'd weigh 75 pounds, 102 Fahrenheit, or in European money, 39 Celsius. Wow. Yeah. No thanks. I think it's about 17 degrees here. It's quite windy today. It's been doing a bit of rain. It's very different. It's very cloudy. Right now at Dublin Airport, it's 18 Celsius. What is that in American money? 18C to F. That is 64.4 Fahrenheit. Wow. Bit of a difference there, Elaine. Johnny Wilson says a big hello from Dublin. Adding, I'll be flying home Wednesday evening, so we'll be back to the old hello to Johnny Wilson in Texas instead of hello to Johnny Wilson in Ireland, because Johnny has been in Ireland. Sorry, there was another me there momentarily. God, as if one isn't bad enough. Johnny, yeah, what a pleasure to see you again on Saturday. So if you didn't know it already, Johnny attended my tour of Ishnock last month with Simon Chute of Monumental Ireland. He also turned up at the official launch of my Fourknocks book on Sunday, the 4th of August in Drogheda. And on Saturday, he was at Cruban, west of Nouth, where I was giving a talk about the River Boyne for Ireland's National Heritage Week. What a pleasure. Johnny, safe travels. Enjoy the last couple of days in Ireland. And we'll see you on the other side, as it were. You'll be, is it a 5 or a 6 hour difference, something like that, when you get back behind the screen in Texas. Wayne Bird says, good evening, Anthony. Hope everyone is well and keeping safe. Fourknocks Monograph book looks, feels, and smells lovely. Looking forward to reading it, and will be honoured with a place in the front of the library. Brilliant stuff, Wayne. Well, I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, I agree. I always smell new books. I think that they smell nice. It's an old habit of mine. Ali is saying hello from stormy Tucson. Wow. Yeah, a bit stormy here today too. So maybe there's a common theme emerging. Well, certainly among two places. Ali, hope you're in good form. Thanks for joining us. Lily Shambles. Hi, Anthony. Hope you're well. Yes, I am, Lily. And the same right back at you. I hope you are well and in good form. Thanks for joining us. Stephanie Madsen is saying hello from a very warm Texas. Well, that's what you have to go back to, Johnny. And of course, Elaine is already reporting 102 degrees. Wow, Stephanie, how do you put up with it? It's, oh yeah, Elaine is telling Johnny it's boiling hot. And Lily adds, good evening from weird weather Britain. 8 Celsius last night, 18 tonight. Yeah. I hope you saw my photo of the full moon last night. We had yesterday in the latter part of the day, very high level dust in the atmosphere, or smoke from the Canadian wildfires, believe it or not, which was making our sunset very interesting and our moonrise also very interesting. Brendan Byrne says, "Evening all. Hello, Brendan. Welcome to the library." And Scott Doherty totally forgot to tune in last Tuesday. Missed the whole thing. But I'm here now. Happy Monday to all. Brilliant stuff. Same to yourself and Bill, of course. Tuesday Thompson is wishing us all a happy Mythology Monday. Brilliant stuff, Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you. Happy Monday to you. Heather Marie Leaning says, "Evening to Anthony Murphy and Tom King. Hope you are all well. XX." Well, I suppose I can't speak for everyone else, but yeah, I'm good this side, and yeah, hope you are too. Will iced tea help cool me down? Asks Johnny. I don't know. I don't know if that's maybe for Elaine to perhaps answer. Does it normally cool you down when you're at home? Helen Hirsch-Chader is in the house. Greetings, Anthony, and all the mighty Tua. Yes, indeed. Hello to you, Helen. Good afternoon. Rex Fortenberry is saying, "Greetings and salutations. Ready to get educated in the wild and woolly world of publishing. As long as I can still sit in the back." Well, that's okay. And at least you're on time. I don't have to produce the red book. Richard Burgess is saying hello from the Catskills in New York. Hope everyone is having a happy and healthy Mythology Monday. Thank you, Richard. Same right back at you. Samantha Healy is saying good evening to all of us. Samantha Trinonawa Mochara. Excuse me. Peter Shields says good evening all. A very good evening to you, Peter. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy the stream. Pat is saying, "I just self-published my first book. Sacredness surrounds us in every season on Amazon. I'm trying to put it on an ebook now. All the best from Vermont." Thank you, Pat, and good luck with your book. Hope it sells millions of copies. Peter reports that it's overcast and drizzly in the Highlands. Wow. Silent Pilgrim says hello from Germany in the evening time there. Is that Guten Abend? Is it? Stephanie says 6 hours. So Texas 6 hours behind Ireland. Thank you for that. Erica Bow is in the house. Good afternoon to all, she says. And we say, yes, welcome, welcome. Yes, indeed. And yeah, welcome back, actually. We haven't seen you in a while. Erica, hope you're in good form. Always a pleasure. Joe Butler, Auntie Joe, is in Colorado. Looking forward to this episode and a lively discussion, as the discussions usually are lively and friendly generally. Chris Summers, go on, you good thing. Bit late for these for the past year, but that's a red. That's the red book coming out straight away. Chris Summers. Oh, I'm spilling my papers here. Apologies. Chris Summers, late for a number of episodes and doesn't mind boasting about it. Chris, I hope you're in good form. Great name, by the way. Hope it's sunny where you are. Mes Marion is back. Hello there. Blessings to you also, Mes Marion. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope that you are keeping good. Burr Whelan says, "Hi, Anthony. Hi, to a dull, windy and damp in Dublin." Well, same. 30 miles north of you here in Drogheda. Wild and windy, so 'tis, says Chris. Yes, indeed. Susan Scott is saying hello from a wet Connecticut. So many here suffered from yesterday's flash floods, hoping to dry out in the next few days. Oh dear. Hope everybody is able to dry out after that. Another day of rain and sun, says Pat. Shasta Bize saying, "Love all the photos from your outings. Brilliant stuff." The last Newgrange Farm Archaeological Park and Newgrange Chamber tour is tomorrow. You can't book a ticket, unfortunately, because it's booked out at this point. But that's the last one of the season. Looking forward to meeting tomorrow's participants. Emma Green is sending us a heart and, the hands in prayer. Emma, you're very welcome. Hope you are in good form and that you enjoy the stream. Mes Marion is saying blessings from California. Brilliant stuff. Where it's just in the middle of the day. Silent Pilgrim started digging into Fourknocks this evening and got the dining table covered with a map of Eastern Ireland after the first 24 pages. I think that's probably a good sign. Yeah, brilliant. I hope you're enjoying it so far. Silent Pilgrim, glad that it finally got published and is out there. Simon O'Tusafar is saying, "Good evening from sunny Kinsale." No way, I refuse to believe it. It's completely overcast here in County Louth. It's cloudy from horizon to horizon in the Boyne Valley. And down in Kinsale, the sun is splitting the stones. Erica Bow is also watching on YouTube, where she says, "Afternoon to all." Brilliant stuff, Susan Scott. Hoping your temperatures moderate soon. We've had an unusually hot 90+ summer in Connecticut. They will probably. I mean, it is autumn in the northern hemisphere, so it'll be getting cooler, I'm sure. Most of Texas, at least El Paso, is 7 hours behind. Because Texas is huge, isn't it? You know, Texas is much bigger than most countries. Yeah, guten Abend. It is brilliant stuff. Alan Hoskins. I thought I was going to be late, Anthony, as I've been checking the local crossroads for comely maidens. Top of the morning to you. Just to make sure. I really thought I'd found one. Alas, it was a fella called Martin from a local pub, a hairy sort of chap. Not comely, not a maiden, and definitely not impressed either. Hope all are well. Yeah. I was stirring the pot a little bit with the last couple of posts on Mythical Ireland. And some people kind of really getting quite vehement in their arguments. A few people saying, I searched the internet, and the internet says that people in Ireland do regularly say top of the morning to you. So if it's on the internet, it must be true. How could you possibly trust the word of a 50-year-old man who was born and raised in Ireland and has lived his whole life here and never hears people saying that, except for when they're taking the mick, when they're referring to the kitsch portrayal of Ireland in Darby O'Gill. Yes. And the comely maidens, well, there you go. That's another one. Something that apparently De Valera said, but there's some debate as to whether that's exactly what he said or not. Rexana Bowman is in Carthage, Missouri. I don't get many chances to catch you live. Well, we're glad that this afternoon you're in luck, Rexana, and welcome to the stream. Tom King is in the house. Hello there, Anthony and the two. Are you all jealous of my one-off Fourknocks bronze medallion? Bronze pendant, probably. It's my bronze medal from the Olympics for telling dad jokes. No. Yes, Tom, I hope all in good fettle. It's time for a break and a sit down. Well, I agree. I mean, it is after 8 o'clock in the evening. You've probably been working for 12 hours, knowing you. So yes, absolutely. Take a break, sit down, relax, grab a dram or a cup of tea or whatever you're having, Gavin O'Flaherty, who is the Cove Gooner, reports that he's going to go around Cove when the liners are in, saying top of the morning to you. Bigara, sure and Bigara. Top of the morning to you. Sure, everyone in Ireland says that every day. Yes, very good. Anthony just destroyed our tourist industry. Yeah. All those people coming from abroad, landing in Dublin Airport, on one of the early flights, walking through the airport, nodding at people and saying hello. And after a few minutes, they're like, what's wrong? Is this definitely Dublin, Ireland? Nobody has said top of the morning to us yet. What's going on? I can't believe it. We must be in the wrong place. So just for all of you, top of the morning, which is a bit ridiculous because so far everybody who's watching is either in the afternoon or the evening. We've no viewers yet who've declared themselves from Australia, New Zealand, where if we had, we could say top of the morning to you, as we do every day in Ireland, every one of us. Yes, every day we get up, we're like top of the morning to you. No. Gavin says it'll be my first time saying it, in fairness. And for those of you who don't know, that is a reference to something that it is widely believed outside of Ireland by people who've never been to Ireland, that people say in Ireland. And it's mostly derived from a film, a 20th century movie called Darby O'Gill and the Little People. Apparently, there is some support for the idea that it was once upon a time a phrase that was uttered in Ireland. I think bar or varlamogin glitch or something like that. But they probably would have been pre-famine times, certainly pre-English speaking times, pre-20th century. And it seems to have died out. So it may once upon a time have been in common parlance. I'm not sure about that, to be honest. I'd like to see more evidence of that. But what I can tell you is it's not in common parlance in Ireland today. It simply isn't. And all of the people on my post on Mythical Ireland Facebook and Instagram who are saying people do say it, and I've heard them saying it. Most of the people who say it are saying it as a sort of a piss take, as a self-deprecating laugh at the portrayal of the Irish in some popular culture. Nobody says it. Very few people say it as a sort of. I suspect that the small number of people who do say it all say it in deference to Darby O'Gill, that they didn't pick it up from common parlance, Top of the morning, says Bear Whelan, and the rest of the day to yourself. Begorra, sure and begorra, 'tis sure to be sure. Susan Scott is saying it's mid-afternoon here in Connecticut, so we can't say top of the morning to you. We say top of the afternoon to you, Desiree Riley's in the house. Me and Amadeus are so happy that I'm off this Monday, so we can tune in. Brilliant stuff. And you may hear Saskia has been yelping outside. She was at the vet a few days ago. She has an infection in her ear, which we are treating her for. I think that she's getting better. So she was a little bit under the weather, but she's good. And she's like all women, she doesn't complain. She just gets on with it. Enough about Irish history and read enough old texts. Darby was the first time an Irish person said it. I remain to be convinced, to be honest, that it was something that was said. The evidence I've seen so far is a little bit tenuous, I think is the word I would use. Saskia telling Amadeus hi. Yes, indeed. Speaking of which, you may hear the pitter-patter of her paws. Hello, Saskia. Hi. No, not interested. She wants to go back in to the sitting room onto her comfortable armchair. She has commandeered one of the armchairs made for humans and has claimed it all for herself. And nobody is allowed to sit on it, bar her. There you go. So anyway, at 16 minutes past, I'm up to date with the comments. I'll keep an eye on the conversation as usual. Today is all about the publishing industry. Well, okay, this comes with a little caveat. I'm an Irishman, born and bred. I've lived all my life in Ireland, and I publish my work in Ireland. Now, my work is available internationally. Some of my books are available on Amazon. Some of them are available in bookstores in the US and Canada. The larger books were published by Liffey Press. My smaller books, including the new Fourknocks book, were all self-published. So published here, written and published here in Mythical Ireland headquarters right here. So that there are certain caveats. The Irish publishing market is a small one. The readership is a small one comparatively. There are 5 million people living in the Republic of Ireland and another 1 point something million living in Northern Ireland. It's a small market no matter what you're publishing, Gavin reports that my fella has his own armchair too. Ha, yeah. And once they take over, there's no getting it back off them. Peter Kennedy said, Era Gobra. I have another one here from the USA, but I've never heard anyone say it here. What is that, Peter? Funny, I just saw comments about top of the morning on an Ireland travel site. I've been to Ireland 4 times, never heard this saying, nor expected it. Fun to hear you joke about it, yeah. Some people are taking it very seriously. They're arguing with me. They're saying, no, I read it on the internet. I've been to Ireland and I heard someone saying it. Top of the morning. Tippy-tappy, puppy toes, one of my most favourite sounds in the world. That's our Saskia, yes, indeed. So just bear in mind that what we're talking about today in terms of publishing is based on my experience here in Ireland. However, some of it will be universal. And in any case, it begins really with writing advice, because something that happened last week, I had a lovely group, mostly from the US. And I spent 2 days as their private tour guide. We went to Nouth and to Newgrange and Fourknocks on the first day, and on the second day we went to Lough Crew and then to the Hill of Tara. And while we were having lunch in Maguire's Cafe on the Hill of Tara, we got talking about writing, and something that a lot of people would have said to me over a number of years is how do you find time to do it all? Now, I'm in an advantageous situation now because you know, most of you who are watching regularly and following things regularly will know that last year I retired, as it were, from my full-time newspaper career, where I had worked full-time for the best part of 31 years, to concentrate solely on Mythical Ireland and trying to earn a living from selling books, from my private and public tours, from patronage, and from a few other things like the odd bit of media work, appearing especially in broadcast media. Um, so um, a conversation was flowing, and a couple of the ladies in our group said, "Do you know, Anthony, you should really uh, either write that or formalize it somehow, the advice that is," because they thought it was very valuable. One of them was trying to write a book. Valentina Bernardi is in rainy Glastonbury. Yes, similar theme. Grey here, quite windy, raining on and off today. It's a night for the live stream, you know, for the screen. Make yourself comfortable. Get something to put your feet up on. Wrap a blanket around you if you need it. Grab a cup of tea or something stronger. Sounds perfect, actually. Oh, I want to come on a tour with you, says Stephanie. Just came for 3 weeks in April, but plan on coming back soon. Brilliant stuff. We'll get in touch, Stephanie, by email, mythicalireland@gmail.com. And we can discuss plans and itinerary and prices and stuff like that. So the first bit needs to be about writing. And then we can talk about publishing, more a sort of a broader discussion on publishing. And while we are doing this, please feel free to ask questions. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't, I'll maybe be able to direct you as to where you might get an answer. Or I might just be able to tell you, look, I'm sorry, but I don't really know, you know. Unlikely to see the supermoon tonight, says Tom King. No, not with that cloud. Barb Jordan is in the house. Perfect rainy night here too. Well, there definitely is a theme here, although the Texans, as usual, are baking in the hot weather. So the primary advice. So one of the things, as the writer of books I have published, Fourknocks is book number 10. If you look at the graphic illustrating today's talk, which I will upload as the thumbnail for the video when the YouTube stream is finished, all 10 book covers are on that graphic. So let's very quickly. So just to establish, not that I need to, some pedigree, as it were, that I'm not a once-off, you know, a once-off writer who's chancing his luck. It all began in 2006 with the publication of Island of the Setting Sun, in search of Ireland's ancient astronomers. That and Mythical Ireland are the two biggest books in terms of the number of words and pictures in them and the size and thickness of them. It was revised and expanded in 2008 and republished with a new preface in 2020, so it's still in print. That was followed by Newgrange Monument to Immortality in 2012. That was reprinted also, but is now out of print. I'm planning to bring that into print, but I have a choice to make, which is, do I update that or do I just write a new book entirely? And that I still haven't answered, but expect something on that in the coming months, because I'm really trying to get focused now on publications and where I'm going from here in terms of published books. My first foray into fiction was Land of the Ever Living Ones, a novella published in 2013. It's out of print. However, the good news is I'm planning to issue a reprint in a slightly different, more compact version. It's a sort of book that it's based on something along the size of, no, don't throw it away, onto that book there, and it'll basically fit into your pocket, you know. Lovely little book that, by the way, if I may say so myself. Nice, based on, it's a fiction, but it's based on a conversation between a young boy and a Chandri, an old druid in ancient Ireland. And they talk about lots of things, and it's spiritual, and it's mystical, and it's astronomical, and it's ancestral, and it's monumental. I think it's lovely. I think you'll enjoy it. What came next? The chicken or the egg? The there was a lot happened then in a short space of time. There were 3 books until 2017 when the first edition of Mythical Ireland was published. You'll have to forgive me. There's a very battered version of the first edition here on my desk. And later that was republished in 2021 as a revised and expanded edition. 20,000 extra words with a new cover. That's the one in the passage of Newgrange showing the sun streaming in at the solstice. I'm not sure if I'll get the sequence exactly right. Over the course of the pandemic, 2019, Dronehenge, the book about the discovery of Dronehenge, was published by Liffey Press. So Mythical Ireland, Island of the Setting Sun, Newgrange Monument to Immortality, and Dronehenge were all published by Liffey Press. The other 6 all self-published. Return to Segish, that very, very special poetic and mystical examination. It's neither fiction nor non-fiction. It's like a work of poetic prose, a free-flowing work that I actually hand-wrote initially. And the monographs, the first monograph was entitled Finn and the Salmon of Knowledge, Mythology, Toponymy, and Cosmology. So that was kind of an experiment in, a smaller format book on a specialist subject, work, and it has been reprinted a couple of times. That was followed then by, that was 2021, yes. That was followed by Bowen, the Goddess of the River Boyne in the Milky Way, also published in 2021, again during the pandemic when we couldn't have in-person book launches. And of course, the third in the monograph series, just published a couple of weeks ago, my 10th book, Fourknocks, Archaeology, Astronomy, and Mythology. Great reaction to that so far. That is flying out the door. At least 2/3. Sorry, I keep saying 2/3. It's not 2/3. It's 3/5. At least 3/5 of the printed copies are sold and gone. And delighted to report, I suspect I'll be having to reprint that one soon. And the only one I haven't mentioned so far is the small novel, larger than the novella, but still less than, I think fewer than 50,000 words, is The Cry of the Shawach, which is based upon Irish mythology, but is a fictional tale. So, thank you, Mavanwe. Return to Segish is wonderful. A very special book. It doesn't sell well, but the people who find it or are drawn to it get a lot out of it. It's a funny thing, I go to I host lots of tours, and then I give lots of talks. But when I'm doing my tours, I always say to people, look, I have copies of my books, most of them, those that are in print, in the van, and I open the van and people start looking and going, oh, I like this, I like this, I like this. And just, every so often, somebody just gets immediately drawn to Return to Segish. They just disregard everything else and they just go, oh, and they pick it up. They just feel it and look at it and go, I want this one. It's a funny one. It doesn't sell well compared to some of the others, but it hasn't found its time yet, I don't think. Anne McCallum has joined us. Hello! Hope you're all in good form. I just pulled over to say hello. Been to Milwaukee Irish Fest and stayed overnight in Chicago. Just driving back home now. This sounds like a very interesting episode. Looking forward to catching up later. Well, the main thing is, Anne, drive safely and get home safely. And of course you can watch back, but it's a delight, of course, to say hello to you, as it always is. Mavanwe says it's a blustery Bristol. I wish I was here all the time, not late. We believe you. Absolutely no doubt whatsoever in my mind about the fact that you've been here since the very beginning of the episode. Yes, indeed. Anna L is saying hello from Balbriggan, from the top of the towns. Top of the morning. And a great pleasure. And of course, you may have seen, having attended my last Fourknocks tour, which was that the one that was in association with the Solstice Art Centre in Navan? We actually met finally, and we got a picture together. Barb Jordan is saying, hello, everyone. Perfect rainy night here too. I think, did I read that one already? I'm sorry if I did. I sometimes just, the mind is, Can't wait to hear your publishing advice. So long as it doesn't lead into the announcement that you're publishing your jokes. Oh, that was going to be my 11th book announcement just in this episode, that I'm going to publish all my dad jokes, and I expect it to be a bestseller. Is that not advisable? Joke, of course. No, I wouldn't foist that on people. You know, if you can and the weather allows, take a look at the moon this evening/night. Absolutely magical. Well, apparently it's a super moon. Well, what that really means in reality is the moon is a tiny bit closer to Earth. You'll hardly notice, you know. Return to Segish would be beautiful in animated form, says Helen. Anybody know any studios that they could direct it towards? Damn the red book. I thought I got away with it. It's all right. I didn't actually take your name in it. It's okay. You're all right. But I thought it had become something of a badge of honor to get your name in the red book. So the first advice is, and I need to get on with actually giving advice, is about writing. So as an author of fiction and nonfiction, I have read a lot of interviews with famous authors mostly. And especially over the years, I've watched a lot of interviews on TV and on YouTube with published authors. Every one of them is asked for their advice for aspiring writers. And every one of them will say different things. But there are some commonalities to what they say and what they advise. So here is the simplest thing. And it sounds, people complicate it in their mind, but not to sound like a dumbass, the principal thing about writing a book is to write it. And I know that's going to sound, oh, what's he talking about? Yeah, that's obvious. But it's a funny thing. But the reason most people who want to write a book never actually get their book published is because they don't write it in the first place, or they don't finish it. We are our own worst critics. And the thing that prevents most aspiring authors, many of whom would probably write a very nice book and a very competent book. If it's a non-fiction work, they're probably very knowledgeable in whatever area they're writing about. If they're writing fiction, they might be surprised at just how good it is. However, most people never finish their book. Some people start and give up fairly quickly. People get bogged down, and I know this. The reason I know this is because I've been asked for so much advice over the years, and I've dispensed so much of it. Now, that also comes with a caveat, which is, as a public figure of sorts, because I run a live stream, you know, and I do tours and all of that, random complete strangers will reach out to me and will ask me for advice and ask me to read drafts and things. And look, I'm sorry, but I just don't have the time to do that. I have a very, very busy life. I work 7 days a week trying to publish my own material. So if you want to get somebody to read your work, then give it to some friends who or relatives who will give you some objective feedback, who won't just say, oh, it's great because they're related to you or they're friends with you. Failing that, if you have a budget, actually, before you even think about spending money, if you have any sort of an internet or social media presence, ask for beta readers. Send it out to people and say, I want honest feedback about this. And don't be afraid of that process, because that process will inevitably lead to people being objectively and constructively critical. Don't take it to heart. But long before you get to any of that, the single and simplest piece of advice, Movanwe is already reiterating it, and it is 2 words, as Movanwe has outlined: just right. Now, when people write, so one of the ladies was asking, but you know, how detailed should my plan for the book be? And my answer to that is, it depends on what you're writing. If you're writing a large work of fiction, you'll need a plot, you'll need characters, you'll possibly need to flesh that out in some detail before you start. But the danger there immediately is that already you're getting bogged down in detail before you've written the thing. It might surprise you to learn that I never planned Land of the Ever Living Ones. Although, in fairness, it only sold a small number of. I think there were only 600 or 700 copies printed. It's not like it's a bestseller or anything. Um, I never planned The Cry of the Shawak, but in fairness, or the Sebok, if you prefer, The Cry of the Shawak is my poorest selling book, so it has never done well. And I don't believe that's because it's poor. I believe it's just because uh, I had established uh, at that time a reputation as a writer of nonfiction, and uh, they say that if you're known for nonfiction, you'll find it difficult to write fiction. I'm not sure if it works the opposite way around, or you'll find it difficult to get success with fiction. I don't believe in convention either too much. Don't pay too much attention to, just write. If your project is a work of nonfiction, you probably will need to have an outline. Now, what does that consist of? So, when I was pitching Island of the Setting Sun in early 2006, by the way, it was published before the end of the year, which is incredible when you think about it. Liffey Press were very good at turning around books very quickly. Most publishers would sign a deal with you this year, but expect it in the latter part of the following calendar year. Liffey said, "Can you get it to us this year?" And I said, "Yeah." I set myself a major challenge, but I delivered, which was fantastic. I was younger then too, of course. What age was I in 2006? I was 32. I'm now 50. And I would take all of this advice with a pinch of salt. This is my own experience, and it may not be completely relevant to you. However, that a piece of advice is central to it all, and that doesn't go away no matter who you are, no matter whether this is the first time you've ever tried to write something, or whether this is your 100th book, whether you're J.K. Rowling or Stephen King, or someone like Brian Cox writing about astronomy. It doesn't matter. That still applies. So here's another fact. If you sit down and you're making all sorts of excuses and you're procrastinating and you're getting distracted, you may already be finding reasons not to write because of your own self-doubt, not because the book that you're going to write isn't going to be good, believe it or not. Most people who want to write a book and publish a book don't get there, and that's because they don't write it in the first place. You wouldn't believe the number of people I have encountered who are friends, colleagues, acquaintances, even distant relatives over the years, who never got to the point of actually writing a draft because they put so many barriers in the way. And you know where all of those barriers were? They were entirely in there. Entirely. I knew a gentleman, I will not identify him. So I've worked in a number of different newspaper publishing companies over 31 years. One of the gentlemen that I encountered during my career was a very good writer, a very witty writer, a very insightful writer, someone with very, very good sources and knowledge and all that stuff. And I always thought, as many of his colleagues and friends did, that there was a brilliant book in him, which would be a reflection of the social and political life of Ireland in the 20th century. He died a few years ago without ever having written his book. And that in particular sticks out to me as a most poignant reminder of the fact that you've got to do it. You've got to do that. You've got to write. Don't think about other things. So here are the things that people think about. And I want to talk to you about 80%. So if I don't come back to it, remind me to talk about 80%, okay, in a few minutes, because I know my mind flows in different directions, and I have no script for this episode. So if I haven't mentioned it in the next 10 minutes, please, in the comments, say, Anthony, you need to go back to tell us about this 80%. What is that about? So here are the things people put in the way. People say, oh, well, you see, I don't have time. I wrote The Cry of the Shawach as proof to myself in 2013 that I could find the time. It was a very busy time in my life. I had only recently gotten a new job in a new newspaper company. I was commuting to Dublin for the first time. I was working long hours. I was commuting. My kids were still relatively young. My eldest was 13, my youngest was 5. It was a very, very busy time. I was carpooling with my brother, and I just decided one day, damn it, Anthony, don't use this stupid excuse of not having the time. All the people who say they don't have time, I wonder what they're doing with their lives that they're too busy. You will find that many of these people, and this isn't meant to be looking down on anyone or casting aspersions, it's a simple human fact. We're all guilty of it. Those people are probably watching too much TV. They're probably scrolling through Facebook for an hour in the evening. They're possibly engaging in activities that they're not getting any great reward from, whether it's a hobby or, an interest, or just they might be in the pub. They might be working too hard. They might be starting work too early and working too late, and really not have the time or energy. I wrote that book as proof to myself, and I wrote it in the space of 3 months as proof to myself. You have got the goddamn time, Anthony. Pardon the swear words, but that's how strongly I felt about it at the time. I felt a little bit overwhelmed by work and domestic agenda and other things, and I said, if this continues, you're not going to be able to write another book. Remember, at this time, I had only 2 published books, Island of the Setting Sun and Newgrange Monument to Immortality. And I said, at this rate, if life continues to be this busy, you're never going to write another book. Are you happy about that? No, I'm not happy about that. So I said, get up off your backside, find the time. I hand wrote in notebooks like this. I brought a notebook and pens with me every day. When my brother was driving, and hello, Brian, and he'll remember, I hope fondly that while he was driving and the commute would take an hour and a quarter in each direction, I'd be scribbling, I'd be writing the book. When I went home that evening, I would transfer what was in the notes onto my computer. And therefore, I was able to keep track of my word count. Now, here is a most important piece of advice. Don't expect to be able to sit down, unless you're superhuman or unless you're a meticulous sort of person, you're meticulous with your planning and your timing. And if that's the way you are, brilliant, super. But most of us aren't. Don't sit down every night and have an expectation of writing 3,000 or 5,000 words. The expectation every evening or morning or afternoon or middle of the day, whenever it is you are writing, the expectation should be just this: write some. If you can get 100 words down, even 50, a sentence or two, you're closer to the end and further from the beginning. And my first piece of advice when I was thinking about writing Island of the Setting Sun back in around 2004 was from a local author here in Drogheda, a man called Tom Riley. Tom has written lots of books about Oliver Cromwell, not a very well-liked figure in Ireland. And Tom's books about Cromwell are quite controversial. But he gave me this piece of advice. He said, Anthony, just try to write no matter how little you get done, because every time you write, you're that much closer to the end and that much further from the finish. It was brilliant advice. Don't burden yourself with the expectation of finishing it. Don't say, I'm going to have this done in 3 months. Don't say, I'm going to have it done in a year. Just be realistic, but write every time you get an opportunity to write. Now, there will be times, hopefully, when you'll sit down and whether it's a computer you're using or a tablet or, maybe you're dictating, text to speech, maybe you're using an old typewriter like I do. I've written some work on typewriters, as you probably know. Get stuff written. You may very well find that you can write 2,000 or 3,000 words in a sitting. Most people won't be able to sustain that because you'll be tired from other things. But if you're tired the next evening and you're like, oh, I really can't, then don't. But the following day, try to get a few hundred words down. Every time you write, you're further towards the finish and further from the beginning. It's amazing. after just a couple of weeks, if you have it, for instance, as I do, keep all my writing in a Word document, you go, wow, I've 10,000 words written in 2 weeks. Now, it might be 5,000. It might be 3,000. It doesn't matter. You don't have to keep up with anyone else. You only have to keep up with yourself. You only have to write. And you'll be surprised. Dedicate yourself to finding some time every day. And after 2 weeks or a month, look at what you've done, and you'll be like, wow, I've 25,000 words written in a month. This book, I plan, don't even think about too much about word counts. Really don't. But if you have to, if it's going to be 100,000 words, you're a quarter of the way there. If it's 150, you're a sixth of the way there. But you're, again, closer to the end, further from the finish. That is the simplest and most fundamentally important piece of advice that a published writer like me can give to a non-published writer like you. You who are putting all sorts of doubts into your mind. You who are possibly making excuses for not doing it. You who are suffering from a lack of confidence, Don't let that get in your way. Write it. So here's the next piece of advice. And some of the very prolific, famous writers would say that they would write, some of them write early in the morning, some of them in the afternoon, some of them late at night. A lot of them write in the morning. And they stop at a certain point because it's only human nature. They do 4 or 5 hours of writing and then they find, look, I'm tired. But some of them will review what they've written and make corrections. Don't do that. My advice to you is don't do that. And that's bringing us back to the 80%. So when you have it written, don't, please don't, after your daily writing session, whether you've written 100 words or 500 or 1,000 or 5,000, please, I beg you, don't read back in it looking for faults. Don't read back in it and go, oh, Jesus, this is rubbish. This is awful shite. There's no way I could ever write. Please, put it to one side. I print everything. I email myself. I keep backup copies on hard drives. I try to make sure there's duplicate copies of everything I do, because I did, when I was writing Newgrange Monument to Immortality in the summer of 2012, I overwrote a larger version of the book with a smaller version. I lost several thousand words because I only had one copy. So email, when you're finished your Word document, save, close, email it to one of your email addresses. Copy it and drag it into a folder on a hard drive. Send it to Google Drive or one of those, third-party services where you can store files. Email it to a friend and say, look, would you mind just holding on to this? My father, when he wrote his book, which, by the way, was called Get There First, A Reporter's Life, benefited, I hope, from some of the advice that I gave him. And like that, and Dad, I hope you don't mind me saying this, I don't think he will, because my dad is a very sort of open and honest man, but he was worried about, I'm going to need to edit this stuff and proofread it and correct it. I said, no, write it first. Write it. Every time you write a chapter, send it to me, email it to me. I'll save it. And when it's all done, then we go back and do the proofreading and the editing. Now, there's a reason that's beneficial. First of all, we are our own worst proofreaders. And this is proven from 31 years working in the newspaper industry, and many people I've worked with over the years would say the same thing. When we read back stuff that we've written, we don't see as much of the fault in it, the spelling mistakes, the typos, the punctuation issues and all of the rest, the grammar, the syntax, as we do when we're looking at other people's work that we haven't written. However, your ability to spot your mistakes improves with time. So if you wrote something this morning and you're trying to proofread it this evening, you're much less likely to see mistakes in it. If you wrote it 6 months ago and now you're coming back to it, it's fresh. Unless you've got a photographic memory, you'll be reading it back going, wow. And I promise you, those of you, look, if you're going to write a book, don't let things like dyslexia get in your way. There are many dyslexic people who have written brilliant books and who are brilliant journalists. Just don't worry about that aspect of it when you're writing it. When you come back to it, you'll surprise yourself, most of you, I think. It's highly possible there's always going to be people who think that there's a book in them, and I want to write a book, and blah blah blah, and when they write it, it's not that good, right? That happens, right? But that's not going to be you. If you've harbored an ambition to write a book for a long time and you're passionate about it, then the only thing that will stop you from doing it is your own mind, is the little devil that's sitting on that shoulder going, no, you can't. No, nobody will like it. Nobody will read it. It won't be any good. Listen to the angel on the other shoulder who says, sit down and do a bit of writing there. And sure, look, maybe do a little bit more tomorrow and a little bit more tomorrow. And the amazing thing is you come back to something you've written a long time ago, 6 months ago or a year ago, and it's fresh. And you read it and you go, no, I'm actually surprised. Yeah. Okay, you'll read a paragraph and say, that needs to be tidied up. Or I think I'd say that differently. A lot of it would be pretty good. Here's the 80% thing. Mark Gordon is in the house. Hello, Mark. Good afternoon to you. Ola says, I wrote all my books when working full time. There you go. Yes, I have indeed read The Hero with 1,000 Faces. I have 2 copies of it here, a hardback and a softback. Mariana is here also from Virginia. Good afternoon to you. Yeah, I hope I haven't missed any sort of important questions or comments. Here's the 80% thing. Not if, when. Okay, that's the attitude now you're going into your writing project with. And I hope some of you who see this benefit from this. When you sit down to do your bit of writing, okay, you get 300 words written this evening, and you're like, wow, I feel good. Tomorrow evening, you get another 300. The following evening, you get 100. The following evening, you get 500. I make that 1,200 words in four sittings. That's brilliant. That's great progress. Keep at it. Keep writing. Keep writing. Keep writing. Don't worry. Don't think. Don't be putting scenarios into your head. Don't be thinking about what publisher would ever accept this. Don't think about who will read this. Write it and put your heart and soul into it. Write the book that you know is within you. If you're passionate about something, like I am about Irish monuments and ancient astronomy and myths and legends, the passion will drive it. Something that you're fascinated by or interested in, or something, for instance, there might be an aspect of history that you're looking at as a non-fiction writer, or even as a fiction writer, an idea for a novel. A former colleague and good friend of mine is Nicola Cassidy from Drogheda. She's written several historical novels, where she's studied a period of history and then, incorporated that into the plot of a novel or work of fiction. Definitely don't allow any of the negative voices to prevent you from writing it. So here's the 80% thing. This is so fundamentally important. It's the next most important thing after just write. And that is that when you get to the point, which you will, I promise you, if you get into the habit, it's a habit forming thing, writing. That's all it is. And even the busiest people can find time to write. Even if it's only 50 words a day, it might take you a few years to write your book, but you'll get there. When you have your draft manuscript completed and you get to those wonderful words, the end, whether you've written a 10,000 work short story, a 25,000 word novella, a 50,000 word novel, a 100,000 word dissertation or a thesis, I think, which is which, I'm not sure, or a 100,000 word non-fiction book, or a 250,000 word novel, it doesn't matter. When you get to the point where your draft is complete, full of the faults and warts and things that need dressing up, as it were, or changing, at that point, you have 80% of the work done. Not 30%, not 50%, not 70%. My estimate from my own work, and I've published 10 books. I have another 2 written. I have another 1 definitely finished, and 1 that needs to be finished, but it's nearly there. When you have your draft manuscript complete, you are 4/5 of the way to publishing your book. You're a lot closer to getting it published than you think. So what's the 20% that remains after that? The 20% is a combination of things. It's editing. It's going back to the first page with fresh eyes. Hopefully you've put a long 6 months maybe since you started it, or maybe a year, maybe it's 2 years, maybe it's 5 years. Maybe it's a book that you started writing 10 years ago and you only came back to. But you're reading it with fresh eyes, and you go, right, and do this on hard copy, not on the screen. I know that sounds old-fashioned, and you might think, but, you know, everybody uses screens now. Believe it or not, it's proven. I'm not sure if there's a scientific study of it, but publishers and newspaper publishers, book publishers and newspaper publishers, editors, reporters, journalists will all say the same thing. You find the mistakes better when you're reading it in print rather than on the screen. You get tired reading on the screen, so reading it put double line spacing and wide margins, print it out, even if it takes several hundred pages and lots of ink in your printer. Don't worry about that. That's a good investment. What's it going to cost you for a cartridge, an ink cartridge? Is it going to cost you 20 quid, 30 quid? It's a good investment. A ream of paper, unless it's a huge book, you won't need more than 500 pages. Print it out and then start with a pencil or a red pen, then start marking what you want to change. Go through it. So that's the 20% of the work is editing. And then when you've the edit done on paper, then go back into the Word document if that's how you're doing it and go, yeah, okay, change that, change that. That's time consuming, in fairness, it is. But in terms of the workload, the 80% thing is so important, because once you get to the point of the end, it's a draft. No matter how rough you think it is, you're 80% of the way done. In terms of time, maybe not. But in terms of the overall, it's like getting over a hump. It's like seeing a big mountain in front of you and you're standing at the bottom of it and you're going, geez, how the hell am I going to ever climb this mountain? And you know what? Without thinking about it, if you just go forward and up and rest and stop, you know, and eat and drink and feed yourself regularly, soon enough you'll find yourself halfway up the side of the mountain looking down where you started going, wow, look how far I've come. But when you finish the draft, you're over the top of the summit and you're already on your downhill journey. That is so important. Those two things. Just write. Stop making excuses. Write. Don't worry about it. Don't overthink it. Don't put barriers in your way. Don't get distracted. Turn off your Wi-Fi if you have to. So get your computer, your laptop, your typewriter, even if you're handwriting it, and sit down away from those distractions. Turn the phone off if you have to. If you feel my friends are going to be ringing me, or someone's going to be texting me, or I'm going to get into a WhatsApp conversation, turn them off for an hour, if that's what it takes, or 2 hours, or 3 hours, if that's what it takes. So just write. And remember that when you just write, you'll be closer every day you write to the end and further from the beginning. And when you have your draft manuscript done, whether it's 10,000 words or 250,000, you have 80%. You've reached the point at which you're 80% of the way to being a published author. Proofreading and editing can both be outsourced. If you don't feel like doing it yourself, if you have a budget, hire a freelance editor. There's websites where you can hire people to do this kind of work. I can't remember the names of them because I don't use them myself. All my work's done in-house. I'm lucky because I've gained all these skills from my career, both as a writer, as a sub-editor, as an editor, as a proofreader, as a graphic designer, as a photographer. I've gained all that from my experience. So I'm lucky. I know that. But again, you see, it would be very easy for you as an aspiring writer to say, but I'm listening to Anthony and I'm going, yeah, but where am I going to get photographs for my book? I don't think I'd be a very good editor. How will I edit it? And maybe I don't really fancy the proofreading because, to be honest with you, I think I'll find that tedious. Don't use that as an excuse not to get to the 80%. Write. Don't use any of that as an excuse not to write. Write the thing first. All of these things can be ironed out much easier than you think. You may have a friend who works as some sort of a copy editor or an editor or a proofreader. If not, as I say, you can hire a freelancer. There may be somebody in your family or your friend circle who'll be willing to do it for nothing. Then, when you have done your hard edit, you may want to edit more than once. That's entirely up to you. But here's another piece of advice: don't edit exhaustively. There are a few examples. There are a few aspiring writers for whom the reason their book never got published is because they became what I would call an inveterate revisionist. They just spent months and even years after they had completed their manuscript revising it and trying to perfect it, adding to it, taking away from it, overthinking things, doubting themselves, going, oh, I don't know, oh, no. The truth is that on the day that I sent the Fourknocks book to print, at that point it had been proofread 5 times, including twice or 3 times by myself, twice by myself. And the last proof edit was the big one. That was the one where I paid the most attention. I knew when I sent it to print, there were still imperfections in it. You will never send the perfect book to print. And if you use that, that's one of the things that will hold you back. And that's one of the things that tells me that you doubt your ability. And actually, if you gave your manuscript to other people, they'll read it and go, do you know what? That's fascinating. I really love that. Really enjoyed that. But you, as the writer of it, will find nothing but fault in it. That's some people, not everybody. Some people are very super confident. Some people are overconfident. There are some books I've read that are, not very good, but that they're few and far between. So don't let that. Don't let the self-doubt crowd you, and don't be overconfident either, of course. And believe it or not, getting a publisher depends on what you've written. Getting a publisher is not nearly as difficult as it was 50 years ago. 50 years ago, most publishing houses in Ireland, probably in the UK, probably in the States, were looking for a certain type of thing, and we're looking for a writer with some pedigree. And if they hadn't got experience as a published writer, they'd be looking for something else, like experience in broadcasting or newspapers, or as an English professor, as somebody who teaches languages, as somebody who they'd be looking for some. These days it's much easier, and these days there's greater choice. Fewer people apparently are reading printed material than they did a generation ago, but don't let that deter you either, because remember, there's lots of routes to publishing. Printing a book is one of them. Remember, digital printing, digital publishing, and ebooks are a huge thing as well. So don't get overwhelmed by thinking about how I'm going to get published and how I'm going to get into the bookshops and which publisher would even take this. 80% is write the damn thing. And the last 20% is editing, proofreading, and finding a publisher, or finding a route to publication. Something that is widely done still today and has been done for at least a couple of centuries is that a writer of a book will, and I've seen it done regularly in my lifetime by people who are publishing very local books about local history, to books that in the library here, for instance, that are out of print, over 100 years. And that's a list of subscribers where the people say, look, would you be willing to support my work? It may be that you contact companies and ask for sponsorship. It may be that you ask individuals like friends and family, I've written this book, I'd love to get it published. It's going to cost a couple of grand to get it printed. Would you support me? And it's amazing. It's amazing. They'll believe in you more than you believe in yourself, believe it or not. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I would say, just to recap, if you are planning to write a work of nonfiction about ships or the geography of the French landscape, or you know, um, the destructive forces of the Ice Age, or you're writing a book about the solar system, or writing a book about stamp collecting. Uh, if you're passionate about it and you know a lot about it, you're already on a winner. You're already on a winner. But depending on how big you intend the book to be and how complex it's going to be in terms of how many different areas it examines, you're going to need to outline it, but don't make that an exhaustive process. Don't make it harder on yourself than it needs to be. Island of the Setting Sun and Mythical Ireland are my two, to this date, are my two biggest published books. And the outline for those both was completed in the space of 24 hours, believe it or not. Okay, it's something I was probably thinking about over a longer period of time. But sometimes it's just a matter of a notebook and a pen and go, right. Or a Word document, or whatever way you do things. You might be more comfortable with doing it on a computer or a laptop or a tablet. But you just go, okay, how would I start this right? This book that I'm going to write about the geography of the French landscape, talk about, how the Ice Age affected, how the geology of France was formed, and then the first geographers. Who were they? Who were the first people to map France, And you'll probably find after a short while that you'll have a pretty good outline. Now, you'll go back to it and you'll go, I don't think that flows right. I think that chapter needs to be after that one. Fine, just adjust it then, write it out again, or adjust it on Microsoft Word. That doesn't need to be an exhaustive process. Okay, with very detailed books, there are some very, very detailed nonfiction books that you will absolutely need to have a fairly detailed structure for. But for 95% of nonfiction, you can probably write an outline on a single A4 page in a Word document. Yep, I think that's probably accurate. Most nonfiction work, you could write an outline on a single A4 page. Seriously. For a novel, that depends. I mean, you look at, for instance, The Lord of the Rings. That's a work that took years and it's complex. So that needs a complex structure. And, your characters. There's millions and millions of websites and YouTube videos that you can watch for advice on that. The difficulty with that is it gets a bit exhausting. If you're spending months and years watching those videos and reading that and you're not writing, then it's of no use to you, because what you're doing is you're procrastinating. And procrastination is something I've suffered from all my life. I'll put something off rather than actually confronting it because I'm afraid of it. So it's very human. Even published authors, even authors who are very successful, who've sold millions of copies of their books, will say the same thing. That once upon a time they suffered from low self-confidence and they didn't think they were ever going to be able to write a decent book, and they didn't think their book was ever going to sell. They didn't think anybody would want to read it. They thought they'd overcomplicated it. They thought they'd undercomplicated it. They thought it was, too weighty. They thought it was too light. Whatever. It's amazing when you actually just do it. What emerges, I'm just going to try and catch up on any questions here. Which of your books is best to explore the crossover of mythology and the science and archaeology? Definitely the one called Mythical Ireland. Yeah, by far. Very easy to recommend that. Lovely crossover of archaeology, myths and legends, astronomy, genetics, geology, anthropology, all that stuff. So I'll just paste a link in there where you can order a signed copy if that's the sort of thing you're interested in. North County Moocher. Lexi is saying, I'll have to catch up on this. Barbara is coming from Denver. Already notified the authorities that will be running amok in Denver for a week or so. Well, I hope they won't be bringing out the red book. Enjoy it. Have fun. I know you two will have great fun. and I look forward to. I hope that it's of some use to you. Yeah, you're inspiring me, says Gary, to put words to paper. I have 1,000 notes jotted down on my phone, ideas, muses, feelings of the place I visited. And there you go. You probably have the makings of a book sitting there. And you know what? Don't worry about, don't worry about the perfection of it. Don't worry about even full stops and capital letters and stuff. Believe it or not. Now, because of my experience and I like to think I can write. So my first draft will be better than other people's first drafts, put it that way. But don't worry about that, because even a very rough first draft, when you finish it, you're still 80% of the way there. You may be only 78% because there might be a little bit more editing involved. But if you don't write it, it's never going to get published. David says, ask Ogma for a bit of inspiration too. Can't hurt. Good idea. Good idea. Just checking for questions. Exit 101 is asking, is there a line between mythology and fiction that is clearly defined? Well, I suppose myth, in a way, is a type of fiction, and fiction is a type of myth. Many works of fiction are a type of myth, Not sure that there is such a clearly defined... that's probably a longer discussion, that, actually. A very interesting question. A friend of mine has just published a book called East to West Across Russia, The Long Journey Home. I understand the editing was the hard part. Yeah, but, and here's the important thing. I would maintain that, especially for a first-time writer, assume this is going to be your first book. When you finish your draft manuscript, you're 80% of the way there. And even if the editing happens to be slightly more onerous and time-consuming than you thought, remember the editing is the part where you can get help with. You can get professionals if you have a budget. If you don't, you can still get people to help you. If you know somebody who's got a bit of skill in publishing. I would always say that, I don't want to generalize, but in my limited experience, a lot of the people who I've spoken to who want to write a book, I would say the majority of them, definitely more than 50% and probably more than 75% of them, are suffering from self-doubt, and that's the biggest thing preventing them. Not anything else. Not, I don't have the time. Not, I'm not good enough. Not, well, I don't think there's really a market for, and the 101 other excuses that we use not to do something, Oh, your words make me feel a lot better. I've had a break from my book with life taking over. It feels a bit like a mountain finishing it now, but if I'm 80% of the way, I think I might be able to keep going. Brilliant. Yeah. Get back at it. Little and often. Don't thing about it is, okay, you already have a certain amount of it written, which is brilliant. Why give up on it now? You'll only end up spending the rest of your life regretting that you didn't finish it. Whatever about regretting that you didn't start a book, don't start it and not finish it. Little and often. Don't think about how long it'll take you. If you want to get it done in a month, brilliant. If you want to get it done in 6 months, brilliant. If you think it's going to take you 6 years, brilliant. Doesn't matter. Just little and often. Write. When I worked in the industry, says Adina, we always edited hard copy. Easier to mark up and to make notes for clarification. Yes, indeed. Paul Campbell is tagging the No Name Trivia Show people. Brilliant stuff. Absolutely excellent advice with the editing. Don't edit too early on. I'm on the final draft of my novel, and I wasted so much time on the first and second draft over editing before I could see the shape of the story. There you go. So this is brilliant. This is Movanwe's hands-on experience. I'll admit I'm also guilty of it with this final draft. Old habits die hard. Yeah, but look, the principal thing is that once you complete your draft. You are much closer to the finish than you think, and you're much further from the start. The greater the artist, the greater the doubt. Perfect confidence is granted to the less talented, as the consolation prize. Robert Hughes. There you go. And believe it or not, every time, there were times when I was writing Fourknocks over the past. It took 13 months, just over a year. There were times when I stopped writing it because I overthought, for instance, how I was going to fund its publication or who was going to publish it. I overthought certain aspects of it, or I got bogged down with things that I didn't need to get bogged down with. But when I sat down with this little and often approach, it's amazing. You just don't think too much about the end of the adventure or the beginning and how far you are between them. There's also an aspect where you kind of have to enjoy it. Like, if it feels too much like hard work, then maybe either writing isn't for you or this book isn't going to work. And remember, don't be put off by that too. You're probably going to say, oh, Jesus, really? I could write a whole book and find out that it's not worthy of publication. That might happen. And actually, the man who wrote the Booker Prize, I have the book there. What's his name? Paul. I haven't read the book yet. Now, I did read sections of it. Prophet Song, yeah. Paul Lynch, I think his name is. Yeah. He was writing another book, and he got to a certain stage with it, and he realized, my heart's not in this. This isn't working. I don't think this is going to work. And that was amazing. Amazing integrity and self-honesty to be able to say, no, it's not going to work. But remember, don't let that put you off as a first-time writer, because sometimes you've got to do that to flush out the mud out of the. For instance, I always use the analogy, that the water company is working on the pipes, the water pipes, and your water's off. And when they call to your door and say the work is done now, but you need to run your tap for an hour because it's going to be full of mud and silt, you have to get rid of the mud before the good stuff starts to flow. And sometimes you have to write or part write something bad to get that out of your system to make way for what's to come, which is better. So just remember, it's a positive. It's always, of course, it's all about a positive. Bee Sting didn't win it. It was, I think, was it the runner-up, or is there such thing as a runner-up? It was on the shortlist. Yeah, the Bee Sting was on the shortlist. Evania Lee, there you go. Top of the morning to you. Evania, how are you? Good morning. Happy Tuesday to you from all of us on Monday. So, okay, that's the publish. That's the writing bit so far. Now, I need your advice. This is where I turn the tables. Yeah. So, if you're subscribed to the emails, the Mythical Ireland emails, you'll know this already because it was the subject of an email that was sent out the other day. If you're not subscribed, it's free to subscribe. You'll get 2 emails a week. They're generally quite lengthy and detailed emails. Yesterday's email was about the Vikings in the Boyne Valley and the terror of that. How terrifying it must have been for the residents of this area, the people who lived here, when the Vikings first appeared on the Boyne River and started plundering and pillaging. Anyway, what was the point? Yeah, the point is this. So I've already said that my major books, the biggest ones, were published by the Liffey Press. So Mythical Ireland, Island of the Setting Sun, Dronehenge, and Newgrange Monument to Immortality. Mythical Ireland is the best-selling book of all of the 10 books that you see on today's graphic for today's live stream. And the best-selling one, actually, it's neck and neck probably with Island of the Setting Sun, which was first published in 2006. But Mythical Ireland, in, say, the past 5 years, has been by far the bestseller. There are about 50 copies of it left, after which Liffey Press is not going to reprint it because Liffey Press, the publisher of Liffey Press, is retiring. And he's going to hand over the rights of the book to me to allow me to decide what I want to do with it. And if you read my very a detailed email the other day, you might know that I have options, but maybe I don't. One of the options is, at this point, is to look for a new publisher. The difficulty with that is, it's like this. A new publisher may not be interested in taking on an older book. Remember, Mythical Ireland was first published in 2017. Even if I could back it up with figures to say it still sells very well, they may only be interested in taking on authors who are willing to produce new work, new work. In any case, that process could take a long time. That could take 6 months, that could take a year, that could take 2 years. And that means that Mythical Ireland is going to be out of print for possibly months, possibly even a year, possibly a couple of years. I don't want that. It's very important to me now that Mythical Ireland remains in print. However, while it is definitely beneficial for Mythical Ireland to be its own publisher, remember that Fourknocks was published by Mythical Ireland, Bowen, Finn, Return to Segish, Cry of the Shawach, Land of the Ever-Living Ones, all self-published. The downside is that you have to fund the reprints or the printing of new material yourself if you're going to be a publisher. So I'm in the very early stages of getting print quotes for Mythical Ireland. I've one in already. So just to put you in the picture, to print Mythical Ireland, because it's a big book and because it's a high quality book and it's full color, I should show you a copy of the new edition before I say too much. So that's it. That's the revised and expanded edition of Mythical Ireland, published in late 2021, early 2022. It runs to 340 pages. It's packed full of color images. It's got the French flaps on the cover. It's a quality book. It feels good, and tons to read. And as I say, it sells well. Yeah, the cost of reprinting. Say if I wanted to get 1,000 copies of that printed, it's going to cost somewhere between, and this is an estimate now, just from my knowledge of getting quotes for other work, it's going to cost at least €5 per unit printed. So to reprint that, just 1,000 copies of it, it's going to cost a minimum of €5 per copy. Now, if you think about it, that's a bare minimum. Initial quotes would suggest it's going to be more like 6, 7, 8,000, or 6, 7, €8 per copy, which works out at 6 or 7 or 8,000 euros of a printing bill. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful to all of the people who contributed towards the printing costs and the production costs of the Fourknocks book. They included the acquisition of photography from the National Museum and National Monument Service, and the people who contributed €50 or more to that fund are all named in the book. And that's just like the old subscribers. You see that in very old books. I'm grateful to the following subscribers. They were all people who gave the author money to help fund the publication. That's a route, the GoFundMe. However, here is the reason I'm hesitant about it. It's nothing to do with self-doubt. Mythical Ireland has sold and will probably continue to sell for years because it's a popular book and people like it. The thing is, that when you ask people to contribute to a specific publication like Fourknocks, and I raised all the money that I had asked for, which was €3,000, by the way. Thank you to everyone who supported it. Do you then start a new campaign a month later for another book? At what point do people start saying, "Jeez, this guy has a hard neck, he's always asking for support," So there's that element, which is important, believe it or not, because you don't expect that people are just going to keep, opening their wallets, as it were. Another option is to seek sponsorship. I'm already doing that. Um, uh, People or companies who may or will support it financially, make a contribution towards that print bill. What's important to me is that not only is that it is kept in print, but that a decision about a reprint is made in the coming month, because there are, as I said, there's 50 copies left. When those 50 copies are gone, and whatever copies are out in the shop now, in the bookstore network right now, when they're gone, it'll be out of print, and I don't want it out of print. Now, so that's a challenge, and in every challenge, remember, there's an opportunity. The big advantage of publishing your own work, in other words, being the author and publisher, is that you get much more of the royalties from each book sale than you do through traditional publishing. Now, without getting into too much detail, I'm very happy with the arrangement I had with Liffey Press. But if you sign a book deal, a non-fiction book deal with an Irish publisher, chances are they will offer you 10% of the net sales. 10%. Yeah. So if your book costs €20 to buy, you're getting a maximum of €2 per copy sold. So you have to sell a lot of copies. Unless you're selling 100,000 or several 100,000, which most authors don't in Ireland because it's such a small market. Okay, I have a global market. Certainly, I have a market in the US and Canada. You're never going to make money from it. It's not necessarily about making money. A lot of people who write books, me included, we're not under the illusion that it's going to make a lucrative career for us. This is just about making a sustainable income through the year, so that I can do all the other things that I do with Mythical Ireland. It's not about making a fortune and buying a mansion and a yacht and a fancy Mercedes. That's not what it's about. It's just about, maintaining things and getting on with it, So definitely I would want, and in fairness to my publisher who's retiring, he said this to me. He said, you don't need a publisher. You are your own publisher now. You actually don't need a publisher, which I think was good advice. And that's the route I would definitely prefer to go. I would like to keep now control of my own publications because, there's just, and again, not speaking from personal experience with my own publisher, but I've heard the stories from other authors, some of whom you would look at and say, they've done very well for themselves. And then you get into a private, I'm not naming any names or identifying anyone. There's one or two people I know in publishing who from the outside look like quite successful authors. But when you sit down and they speak to you in confidence, you realize they're getting pittance. They're getting pittance for their work. So definitely I would prefer, and I think the Fourknocks book is a great vindication of write it yourself, do your own photography. Well, except for, of course, I bought images from the National Museum and that. Design it yourself, lay it out yourself, do it all in-house, design the cover, send it to the printer yourself. If you have all those skills, by the way, when you set out to write a book, brilliant. That certainly reduces the complexity of it. So I'm basically looking for advice. One of the things I'm definitely going to try and do is grow the Mythical Ireland patronage. If you're a patron on Patreon already, that's the address that's scrolling constantly. Thank you for your support. That is fundamentally important. If it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been able to leave my career. Now that on its own, believe it or not, falls way short of providing an income. But as a supplementary thing, it helps enormously. If I could treble the paid patronage for Mythical Ireland, none of this would be an issue. But at the moment it is, and I'm not I said in the email, I definitely didn't want it to sound like I was putting out the begging bowl, because that's not what this is about. I know there's enough people out there who support my published work. Forthcoming between now and Christmas, hopefully, is the new edition of Land of the Ever Living Ones. I know lots of you who've never got the original will buy that. The 2025 calendar is nearly completely designed. It's already available for pre-sale on the website, and I know a lot of you, as you've done every year since 2020, you will order it. Yeah, I would ideally like to do it all in-house. That's what I want. Mythical Ireland is the publisher. Anthony Murphy is the author. Mythical Ireland is the publisher. The thing is maintaining liquidity, cash flow, maintaining enough that when a big print bill like that comes along, that it's something that you can manage. It's something that, you can say, right, let's put this to one side. Let's put this amount from this, and you build up a fund to pay for that. As I said in the email, I don't exactly have 5 or 10 grand lying around in a pillow or in a wallet or in a box somewhere, or in a bank account, Lexi says, Fourknocks is a beautiful book. The photos are outstanding. It's absolutely gorgeous. You need this book. Just do it. Thanks, Lexi. You're a brilliant, fabulous supporter. And it's as simple. It really is. I took a brave decision last year to go full-time at Mythical Ireland. A lot of people at the time said you're foolhardy, and you're crazy and all the rest. But it's precisely because of people like a lot of you who are watching who've invested in my work, whether it's my books or my calendars or my photo prints or my tours. You come on my tours, or you're a patron, or a combination of those. It just simply wouldn't have happened without you. So, I'm completely in your hands in that regard. Self-publishing would mean more work for you. No, kind of, but think about it this way, Mavanwe. I'm already doing that. I've already done that with the 3 monographs, with Return to Segish, with Land of the Ever Living Ones, with The Cry of the Shawak. I've done all that. I've written it, I've edited it, I've proofread it to a large extent. I've had help with proofreading. Anne and Tara, for instance, my wife and daughter, helped with the proofreading of the Fourknocks book. I design my own covers. I do my own photography. So I'm already kind of doing it anyway. And think about the Mythical Ireland reprint is I'm not going to alter that. I'm not going to make huge alterations to that. I might put a new preface in it. I might change some of the pictures. I might just update a couple of things, but that's not going to change dramatically. So that's already designed. I'll just get the files from my publisher and I'll just make the changes and send the files to print. So that's not huge, business loan. Yeah. So in Ireland, we have the local enterprise offices in each area, which are apparently, well, I know they are, but I've never sort of gotten that sort of investment from them, but they're there to help small and fledgling businesses, with, for instance, funding and advice and help, Are there not cooperative publishers in Ireland that say keep 20% and give the 80% to the authors? Not that I'm aware of. What's your name? Leon Vincent? Not that I'm aware of. If you know of any, please let me know. Send information my way and I'll check them out by all means. But no, because believe it or not, a lot of the bookshops will look for a serious percentage. Not the local ones. The local ones I get my books into are very fair with me. But a lot of the big, there aren't that many in Ireland, the big book chains will be looking for 50% or more sometimes, believe it or not. The author does all the hard work, works on a project sometimes for years, and then the bookshop says, well, we want 50% of each sale. It's like, wow, all you have to do is sell it. You just have to, I know it's more complicated than that. But David Powderly, good evening. Almighty Tua, thanks for my copy of Fourknocks. You arrived in great haste. Brilliant stuff. Thanks for the lovely signature and mentioning my current wife. My current wife, yeah. Brilliant, David. Look, I hope you enjoy it immensely. What about making a special limited edition photo print? Yeah. So I regret to say, and this is where I'm going to be just brutally honest, and thank you for asking, Desiree, or mentioning that. Brutal honesty, you may notice if you're especially a subscriber to the emails, and if you've been following the social media for the past 6 months, we did, with our e-commerce people, put a huge focus on limited edition prints in the past 6 months, 6 to 9 months, since the beginning of the year. They're not selling. The best selling, here's a shocker for you, right? This is just for complete honesty, so that you know, just in case there's people might be out there going, do you know that Murphy fella? Do you know he's 170,000 followers on social media. He's published 10 books. He's been on TV all over the world. He's made famous discoveries. He's done this and done that and done the other. And you might say to yourself, geez, I'd say that fella's worth a fortune. My best-selling limited edition print has sold no more than 10 copies. And a lot of them have only sold like 2 or 3. So that may come as a shock and a surprise to you. So while the idea ostensibly seems like a really good one, Desiree, absolutely, thank you for mentioning it. I'm just not able to get traction from print sales. I don't know whether it's because my big books like Mythical Ireland have that good quality photography in them. I don't know if the calendar sales are cannibalizing print sales, because the calendar has 13 lovely images in it, 14 actually, the cover, the inside cover, and then the 12 months. And maybe a lot of people are holding off from buying limited edition prints because they want to get the calendar, and then they find, these are the images I probably would have chosen. So that hasn't been a big earner, unfortunately. Very poor, actually. But look, as they say, fail badly, fail well, but get up and try again, and try something different, so it's become obvious to me from the time invested in that limited edition are not going to be a big earner. If they're not with the audience that's there on social media, which I think at this point is about 180,000, if that's not able to generate decent sales of limited edition prints, then I don't know what is, to be honest, What about libraries? Do they buy books privately? Yeah, but again, and of course, that's a good suggestion, but they'll only buy a few copies. In Ireland, the libraries will only be looking for 2 or 3 copies of your book. So you're not earning, and they'll only buy, like, it's not like they'll keep coming back for, they'll only buy a few. They might buy 5. So that's not a big earner, and it's not exactly like so it's not. Just in case you hadn't seen it, might as well put it out there. The cover is already designed. All but one of the monthly photographs has been chosen. The design work is largely done. Just some detail to fill out. The 2025 Mythical Ireland calendar is already available for pre-sale. If you want to pre-order it now, usually printed in October and sent out in early November. If you want to pre-order it now, by all means do. So, yeah. I suppose let's look at the advantages of my situation. I can write the books, I can edit, I can do the design and layout, I can do the editing, I can do the graphic design, I can design the covers. I do that. I said most of my books, 95% of the photography is my own. Brilliant. Means I don't have to buy in photographs generally. I generally don't have to outsource my graphic design, my cover design. I don't have to, hire proofreaders. So that's a huge advantage. But I suppose the single biggest challenge / opportunity right now is print runs. Fourknocks is selling very well, and I suspect I am going to have to get that reprinted before Christmas. So that's something that has to be funded, in addition to funding the reprint of Land of the Ever Living Ones and the calendar. So you can see the challenge I have. If I had all that money sitting around somewhere saved up, I wouldn't be even having this conversation. So sounds like you're all set up for self-publishing. Yeah, the cash flow is the only thing. Yeah, that's exactly it. It's looking for that support, you know, the next step in terms of um, a loan, sponsorship, another GoFundMe. I don't know. Advice is welcome. Just put it that way. And we'll be finishing soon because I've been talking for an hour and 40 minutes. And I definitely hope that the writing advice that I gave will be useful. I really do. I hope that there's somebody watching live tonight or who will watch this back afterwards, who will later say, "Do you know, Anthony, listening to you that day was the thing that spurred me on to write my book." You know, because that's what we all need, don't we? We all need a little bit of a lift and a bit of a bit of inspiration. You know, could your books form the basics for documentary? Yeah, yes, but you might be surprised, Brendan, to hear that I have been working on and off with several, but over the last few years, one production company trying to sell ideas to various broadcasters and TV companies. And yeah, unfortunately, one of the things that's happened is a lot of broadcasters today are looking for dumbing down. They're not looking for substance, you know. So that's been a slow burner and a hard one to find investment for. You would naturally think. I definitely think there's ample material in, for instance, Mythical Ireland, the book, for a very interesting TV series, 6-part or an 8-part TV series. But selling that to the TV executives and the broadcasters is a different game. But I was say a different bottle of fish. Top of the morning to you, a different kettle of fish. So, yeah, I still believe that there's definitely something there in terms of broadcast. It just hasn't happened yet. And believe it or not, it's something I have been working on in the background. I would say at a certain point over the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of work was put into coming up with a treatment for a TV series that didn't go anywhere because the execs just kind of said, yeah, I kind of like the idea, but, you know, yeah, most galleries ask for a 50% commission on sales. Wow. I do this because, hang on, my phone is ringing and I know who it is. So just give me thought I should mention, and thank you, Susan. Yeah, I suppose it's like a lot of artists and creatives are in the same situation. They create work and they're trying to make a living, and it can be difficult, but they keep doing it nonetheless. So I should mention, because I'd forgotten about it, but if you listen to Classic Hits FM, I'm going to be interviewed live tonight, believe it or not, at 20 past 11. It's 18 minutes to 10, so not for another hour and a half. It's a late broadcast. But if you're interested, and that is about mythology and my work as a mythologist. So that's Classic Hits FM from 20 past 11 tonight, and that's who was ringing me there. GoFundMe also takes money from you. I know, yeah, there's fees, of course, but you still get a huge chunk of it. Is there another way to support be sent? Is there a way money support be sent with cost? Yeah, I mean, there are. I mean, Patreon also takes a fee for every contribution made. So that's how they make their money, and that's I see the way I look at it, Johnny. That's fair enough. If you're using a platform to try and get funding for a creative project, which you wouldn't be able to get without that platform, then I think it's okay for them to take a fee. But yeah, I get what you mean. Of course, you can make direct contributions via PayPal, or or just buy my work online and become a patron, that sort of thing. Anyway, lots to think about. Can we listen in the USA? That's a good question, Desiree. Let me see if they have Classic Hits FM. Do they have a website where you can listen? Classic Hits Radio, listen live. Yes, you can. It's classichits.ie player. There we go. I'll share that, Desiree. So that's in about an hour and a half's time. Anyway, I better go because it's late and I've kept you all far too long. And now you're listening to me waffle, and I don't want to annoy you. But I hope that enough of you who are thinking about writing a book got at least something of use to you tonight that will help you towards completing your project, you know. So I just shared that as a comment. Should appear now on YouTube and Facebook, the link to Classic Hits. I'm a big fan of Natalie Haynes' radio show. Love her, says Exit 101. Brilliant stuff. Naomi says, thank you, Anthony, for the writing advice you just gave to us. I'm a graphic novelist myself, looking for a publisher, and your thoughts were very encouraging. All the best. Yeah, in terms of a publisher, by the way, so the main things a publisher want to know about a book is how does it differ from what's in the market already? What's going to make it stand out, you know? And then you'll have to have a good synopsis and a cover letter. It's not that difficult, really, you know? That bit for me is part of that 20%, you know, along with the editing and proofreading and graphic design, you know. Anything else that I missed? I don't think so. Thanks, Pat. Greatly appreciate that. Look, yeah, none of this would have happened anyway. None of those 10 books would ever have had any success or sales were it not for the people who read them and the people who come back here to watch the live streams and visit the website and subscribe to the newsletter on email and support me with patronage, you know. So I'm going to leave it at that. I have to put the bins out. I have to get back to the domestic chores. Anyway, thanks everyone. And if you have advice or something that you want to help me with, feel free to reach out to me. My email address is mythicalireland@gmail.com. And you can contact me by message on Facebook or on Instagram. There's loads of ways to contact me. It's not difficult. There's also contact us or contact me form on the Mythical Ireland website at mythicalireland.com. So there's 1,000,001 ways that you can contact me. So please do, if you feel that you can help with advice or you can give me a lend of $5,000. Noel Kelly says, good advice, Andy. Brilliant. Noel, great to see you. Lovely to see you recently at Ishnock, wasn't it? Brilliant. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Michael, for your good wishes. And to Leon Vincent, I wish there could be a link to why limited edition media nowadays does not sell well anymore across multiple media types. Something to do with human psychology. I think it's because people access so many nice images online for free. A lot of people, believe it or not, it's a sad state of affairs. I know it happens. People go onto my Facebook and my website and they just go right click, save as, and they put it on their computer as their backdrop, or they send it to their local photo lab and get a small print of it made. They don't care if it has a watermark on it. They don't want to invest in the high-res, full quality version. They're happy to just nick it, you know. It happens. It's a fact of life with the internet and social media. I don't like it. I can't police it. I don't know what someone is doing on the other side of the screen. An argument would be, well, stop sharing your good quality images. Of course, yeah, but then that all helps to build an audience that will invest in the written work. So it's so much to unpack. Anyway, good night to all of you. Thanks for listening. We'll probably return to myths and legends next week. Just to mention that if you did pre-order the Fourknocks book, all those pre-orders went out before the weekend. If you haven't already got it, it's in transit to you. If it's a thing you don't get it after a week, it depends on where you live in the world. If you're in the US and Canada, it can take a couple of weeks. Most of you get them within a week. But if it doesn't arrive after a couple of weeks, reach out and say, look, I ordered the book on such and such a date. Here's my invoice. It never arrived, and we'll sort you out, you know. Mythical Ireland fur baby bandanas. Yeah, even the merchandise. The margins there are quite poor. You have to be selling a lot of them to make any money, you know. Thank you, Mavanwe. And yeah, the best of luck to you also with getting your work finished. Looking forward to supporting you, buying a copy, a signed copy, of course, and to having it in my library, you know. Good night, everyone. Have a great one. Top of the evening to you. We'll see you all next week for more myths and legends and another deep dive into the incredible past of Ireland. In the meantime, Ichawa Kolosov. Slán go fóil agus tóg go bogé. Take it.